Hi everybody. In this video, we're going to talk about actually setting the type for doing a title, and how to space letters well. The first thing I'm going to show you is this is the way that I was taught to keep my type, as opposed to in a traditional type case that a printer would use. This is the way that German bookbinders and probably other bookbinders keep theirs. And the rationale is that you take a letter from the left-hand side of the row, and after it's used, you put it back on the right-hand side. That way, the type gets more evenly worn. It's not random, because titling with heat and this sort of type, it's rough on the type. Although, having said that, it's kind of surprising how long this type will last, even when you're, using it in a hot stamping situation, if you're careful. So there's that. So this is how I keep most of my type when I have, the containers for it. This is 14-point Optima. And then the spacing material for all letterpress type was standardized a very long time ago. And so I did a little drawing, which I like, and I thought I'd throw some of these guys in to make it a little more. Now this is a little more understandable. This is 12-point spacing material, even though I've got 14-point type. So we're not going to go there, because my furry friends redistributed my 14-point spacing material a while ago, and I haven't fixed it. So anyway, so this is across all sizes of type. The basic unit is what's called an M, which is a square of whatever the point size is. So this is 12-point type. It's 12-point on the side. 24-point type is a quad, would be 24 points on the side. So it's really rationalized across all the sizes. So that's the large. Well, it's not the largest unit, but that's kind of the primary unit. Then this unit is divided in half to give you what are called ends, and that's a half an M, and two of them make a square. Again, same deal. Per type size, it's all the same. The next division is into 3. For commercial printing, the 3 to the M space was kind of the go-to for interword spacing. For finer work, people have tended to prefer 4 to the M, which is, it tightens up the spacing a little bit, but it's still sufficient, okay? So there's a 4 to the M. And then there are 2 more lead spacing sizes. There's the 5 to the M, which I don't seem to have any here, and then there's a hair space, okay, which is essentially the equivalent of a brass. Now there are also the thin. These are the standard the standard spaces. There are also thin spaces. They're made of brass and they're made of copper. And the brasses are 1 point wide. The coppers are half a point wide. And in case nobody ever let you know, there are 72 points approximately to an inch. So there are 72 guys of these. There are 72 of these guys in an inch. There are 144 of these. So pretty narrow. These are, again, thickness-wise, they're all the same. So a 6-point copper is the same thickness as a 24-point copper. Okay. Anyway, so that's the range of spacing material, and it's pretty wide, as you can see. So you can kind of pick and choose and combine spaces to get pretty much whatever you want. I already have the type laid out. Like I say, this is this is 14-point type, so technically I should be using 14-point spaces, but that's the way the world works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the first word, I'm going to put it into my type holder. Lucky enough to have a self-centering type holder. Now this is the kind that you have to heat on a stove as opposed to one that you heat by electricity. And the first thing I'm going to do now is shake it a little bit, snug it up. Going to move my spacers out of the way. I'm going to take a piece of kind of soft, thick paper. This is 2-ply board, which I like. Any kind of paper, really, but it's better if if it's not thick paper, you want a few layers of it because you don't want to damage your type, you know, if you go too deep. Carbon paper, it's good if you can find some. This was a gift and greatly appreciated. The other thing to know about type is on all type, there are one or more nicks, which is a little depression in the body of each piece of type. And this tells you where the bottom of the type is. All right, and when you set type, you set the type with the nick up so that if you run your finger over it or if you look, you can immediately see if there's an upside down letter in the row. All right, so snug this up. You got to press pretty hard on these guys. I'm not sure how good of an impression I'm going to get. Let's see. Okay, so this is set solid, and you can see that everything's pretty tight. Okay. You can also see, let me grab a folder. However, that the widest space here is between the W and the A. All right, and over time, I've kind of figured out that the easiest way for me to work is I'm going to try and initially get the other spaces roughly the same optical distance as this widest set solid space, and that just gives you a place to start from. So as you can see, this is really narrow. This is also really narrow. This is, and this is tight too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out with a copper between the B and the E, copper between the E and the W, or a brass, I'm sorry, these are brasses. Brass between the A and the R. I'm going to put a copper between the R and the E, and we'll see what we get. Here we go. Better, but still not what we're looking for. So now I am going to throw a copper between the B and the E. Copper between the E and the W. I know I put a brass between the R and the E. We'll see, that might be too much. But you can see that that's pretty snug. Hey, you're here to learn, so let me show you how the process goes. Getting there. I'm going to put a copper between the A and the R. I'm going to put a copper between the E and the W. Now, as you can see, this is pretty time consuming. So, you know, even though I said in the prior video, you know, you should really letter space your letters, it's not always time efficient. And if you're doing, you know, something that just has to go out the door, and it's not critical, then, you know, there's worse things. It's okay. Yeah. See, that's not bad. I would say that's pretty close. The B and the E are still a little snug. One more copper. I think that's... Nope, you know what? I'm going to call it on that. I think that's acceptable. And then, I have to find my word, babble. Okay, do the same thing here. Set it solid first. Whoa, that L is pretty funky. Going to have to replace that. This is the other thing, of course, is as you work, you have to kind of be aware of, you know, when things haven't survived, which lots of times they don't. I think that's okay. Let's take a look at it. That's better. Now you can see these guys are all really tight too. So I'm going to start out with a copper between the B and the A and the A and the B. Because what you're looking for is the kind of total white area, the total negative area between the letters. And of course, between the A and the B, you've got, you know, the A is a triangle, so everything else is straight. So I'm going to go ahead and put brasses between. Cut it out, you guys. Come on. Hey, hey. Psst. We have disagreements among the staff here. B and E. Oh, stop it. E and the L. Okay, I want a brass between the E and the L. When they get down to the bottom, it's hard to grab them with your fingers. Okay, that's not too bad. But you'll notice that the beware is more widely spaced throughout than babble is. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come back and I'm going to add a copper between each letter. shake it a little bit, snug it up. Good. Yep. As you can see, you have to rock it forward and backwards and sometimes side to side. Almost there. I think we need 2 more coppers, even though I hadn't put any in there prior. Okay, that is, I think, acceptable. I could tweak it further, but again, it's it's the box label, it's not the book label. And once it gets down, I think it's going to be fine. So, nope, I'm going to put a copper between the B and E. Picky, picky, picky. Okay, so that completes the let's set the type section of the demonstration. Now, a couple other things that are nice to be aware of is these guys can fall over. And if they fall over and everything gets jumbled together, then you're just going to be really annoyed with yourself. So the other thing that we have here is we have multiples. In other words, the little drawing I showed you had subdivisions. You can also get multiples. So this is a 2M quad, as they're called. Okay? And the great 20th century hand press printer Gabriel Rummans talks about using quads as bookends for lines of type, and I think it's, you know, totally appropriate way to describe them. So if you have some quads, which you should have on anyway, where that go? The whisker of a cat. You can make a brush out of it. Just take a couple of quads and put one on either side of your words, and then they won't fall over nearly as easily. Okay, I think I should call it quits at this, because the next step is to get the jig ready. Now I'm going to stamp this on a hot stamping machine rather than doing it by hand because it's a label. So the next video will show the setup for printing 2 lines on a hot stamper. It's a little, it's not odd, it's just the way that I was taught. It might not be as elegant as some might like, but it works, and it's worked for me for a whole lot of years. So, anybody have any questions? Put them in the, please let me know. And the next video, we will get set up and probably stamp the label. So thanks again for coming by, and I will see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.